Hello and welcome to Beyond the Overalls. I'm Robert Lee, and this is going to be a podcast about the stories, experiences and people from the motorsport marshalling world. I'm going to be joined each week by Dan. Dan, nice to see you again.
This nice.
Is our first proper episode.
Indeed. Exciting.
It is a little bit scary.
Yeah.
But it's going to be good.
It will.
It's going to be good because our guest has come a long way, not just to be on this podcast. And
as much as we like to think.
As much as I'd like to think, but he's come a long way to be on this podcast. And we are very, very grateful for him. And I'm looking forward to asking him the questions like, you know, what's it like being part of a superbike series and following it around the country, marshalling bikes, and how it's been really positive for him in his life.
Yeah, and the differences from here to home for him as to how the marshalling is different.
Yeah, and the wider community and what he's got involved in. Let's go meet him. So our guest today is Kerry Clifford, or better known as Cliffo. He's not come all the way for this podcast. Whilst he's in the neighbourhood, he's visiting the Isle of Man TT and he's been to Donington. Cliffo, it's an absolute pleasure to have you on the podcast.
Yeah, thanks very much, Rob, and a pleasure to meet you also, Dan. I saw your material online, and that's how we made contact. That I think I made a positive comment about what a professional organisation your Life in Orange is.
Yeah,
and you've been kind enough to invite me down to do an interview, and I'm very, very appreciative. Thank you.
I mean, if you're in the neighbourhood and you're in the area and you've come all the way from Australia, it'd be a bit hard to get you back and go, well, can you just pop back to...
Yeah, that's right. Well, I can amortise off that $1,000 airplane flight.
So the Isle of Man TT is the ultimate destination. After you've recorded here, you'll be going over to the lovely little island. You've done Donington Park as well for British Superbikes.
That's right.
Has it always been a love of yours, motorbikes and motorbike racing?
Not motorbike racing at all. I've ridden motorbikes since before I was legal to do so, and rode motorbikes a lot longer on the road before I got my licence. But no, it was my post-army career when I was looking for basically something else to do. Because during my army time, I'm a registered nurse working in the Australian Army, 32 years in the Defence Force, and spent what time I did looking after family while I was still young. Working clinically in hospitals and things on the weekends, doing what I have to do as a father and as a professional. But once I retired medically unfit in 2015, I was in a bit of a loss, a bit of a thing, but I was aware of marshalling because in the Defence Force, when MotoGP and World Superbikes came around within the motorcycling community in the Defence Force, there was always a promotion, they need marshals. And I hadn't taken up the opportunity, but perhaps we'll get into the opportunity when I did go and got into it through going to a Australian Superbike race event, meeting a very nice young man who ended up becoming an Australian champion. He went overseas for a while, and then met another person who then ended up 1 degree of contact, and we knew each other through 1 degree separation, and ended up in marshalling, and I've been doing it pretty much full time since then.
I mean, when we spoke beforehand, you said you did it pretty much full time. I think this is a great point to just talk about. 1 year, a couple of years, you followed the Australian Superbikes. Was it the Australian Superbikes all the way around? Yeah,
that's right. Yeah, well, the first meeting I went to was, I think, the World Superbikes in 2019 at Phillip Island. And then from there, the next meeting was at Winton in Northern Victoria of the Australian Superbike series. And so I went to that and ended up... it was Morgan Park up in Queensland. And I actually praised the voice in my head, Miss Race Control, a wonderful lady called Shelley Thompson at the time. And I said, that person on the radio has great style, ex-defence, great radio manner, very clear, sounds nice. And I met her. And then following around, it's like, we know each other. Somebody knows each other from defence. And so then she... got me into the marshalling and on a full-time basis from there.
Was that the plan for the year to follow it, or did it just
No, it just sort of fell in,
that?
Well, I had free time, and because I'm now retired on a pension and so I've got money and opportunity of time. Yeah. And it did appeal a great deal. And I think at the time, because I left the Defence Force with mental health issues, it was also a rebuilding of an opportunity to get out and about a bit. Yeah. Because quite frankly, when I left the Defence Force, I sort of left that behind after 32 years, etc. I decided to just be quiet and sort of get a sense of the world again. Grew a beard, put the earring in, and grew a ponytail.
Oh, nice.
And so I did that and sort of went hermit for a bit, but then come back into marshalling, and I found it was a great community that I also had from the Defence Force thing. And it's I like doing a good job and having responsibility and all the like, and that appealed in an immense number of ways. And then meeting riders also, and then getting to that community as well, and then of course watching the racing. But as a marshal, you don't get to watch the racing until you go home and see it on replay, of course, because if you're one sort of marshal, you're looking one way. If you're another sort of marshal, you're looking the other way, and that's all you get to see. Yeah. But no, it's been wonderful, and I really do enjoy it. It's my my lifestyle now is marshalling, and I work most weekends, whether it's road racing, motocross, dirt track, or flat track.
Wow. What a lifestyle that is. I think I'm going to have to take that up. But unfortunately, I'm at the very beginning bit. What you said, I'm doing my duty as a father, as a family man, as working what you need to do, put food on the table, and kind of going around that, and you're just becoming a homeowner as well.
Indeed,
so, there's your money.
Got a way to go. Yeah.
Congratulations.
No, thank you. So how do we then get from following every round of the Australian Superbikes to coming over to Isle
to being here? Yeah. Well, it was interesting. About 3 years ago, I had, because I do stuff on Flag Marshals of the World and have my own Waving Green YouTube and Facebook. And somebody at the Saturday night function, the Marshals function, said, there's somebody from the FIM wants to talk to you. I said, from the FIM? Yeah, Beth Miller from the FIM. I said, who the hell's Beth Miller from the FIM?
What have I done
she's
wrong?
She's one of the travelling steward types, that travel with the FIM for their events. Anyway, we met up, and she says, Cliffo, I love what you do on Flag Marshals of the World. So my shtick on the social media is to promote marshalling.
Yeah.
Very much what you do, a lot more amateurish, so I must say.
Yeah.
I'm not worthy. But through Beth Miller, she then at the end of that event, after the riders' interviews and then sort of the formalities had been done, she got up in front of the audience and said, "Hi, I'm Beth Miller. You probably can tell I'm not from here. I'm the race director, from COTA, from the Circuit of the Americas. You Aussies, I love what you do. I need you to come and work my track." Yeah, sorry, Beth. It's a bad accent, I know.
I was just about to say, what part of Ireland was she from?
No, this is, I'm not sure where she comes from, but certainly Texas. And so we've had some Aussies that have been going across to the States for some time, but the following year, so we're talking about a GP, so then the following year, we had a few, but then I went the year after that, and there was, I think, 12 of us.
Wow.
Last year was 17. This year in March, there was only 7. I think because of the cost of living and issues around flights and things at the moment. Yeah. But it's been very welcoming, and we get in very well, and we have great fun. And there's a story, if you want to tell about it, about my mate in Austin, the American that we looked after in Australia. Do you want me to
please tell it? Please.
Yeah. So about again around the time that Beth Miller was there, we hit the camping ground at Phillip Island for Marshals is right over the back on a hill, and it's basically Antarctica next, and it's notorious for storms coming in and just screwing the camping ground up. Anyway, this particular year, it was already a quagmire. And I was coming on a bike for a start with a trailer with the camping gear in it and all that sort of thing, and it was just not on. And I was able to organise a community hall that we could all swag up in for like $50 each, brilliant. And there was this American bloke who got into our group. He was travelling around, visited New Zealand and come across and got in on MotoGP to volunteer. And so, no worries, we'll look after you. And he had a great time. Then after Beth Miller invited us, and then I put on social media, I'm going to go to America this particular year, 3 years ago. He came up and says, "Oh, you're coming to COTA?" And he says, "Yeah." And he says, "I live 20 miles from the track."
Nice.
So not only now, this is my 3rd year, I'm a family friend, and I love him dearly and his family dearly, and they love me, which is wonderful. And he lends me a motorbike to go to the track and back, picks me up from the airport, drops me off, and it's wonderful. And that's one of the great things I love about the marshalling community. Same with Donington now, I've been able to reinforce that concept that we're all, the basic practice is the same. Some of the procedures are different, but we all love what we do as marshals, let alone motorcycle marshalling, but as marshals.
And it's an international community.
It is an international, and I think Facebook, you talk about Flag Marshal of the World, it's a huge community on Facebook, and it's allowed that almost kind of international community shape, or whatever you want to call it, allowing people to travel to America, travel to Australia. I know you see it, it's once a week, somebody put a message on there going, do you know the chief marshal of X?
Absolutely.
And everybody jumps on and goes, you need to speak to this guy, or you need to speak to her. And
well, that kind of speaks to the thing of how I got to be here, because the chief marshal in America is a guy called Dave Hawley, who was one of the starters of Race Safe marshalling organisation here in the UK. Wow. And then he lives over in St. Louis now, and he does the big events plus Moto America. So he's the fellow for Moto America as well. And through Beth Miller to Dave Hawley to going to COTA, I sent a message saying, look, I'm going to the Isle of Man. What's the go? I saw there was a BSB round on. Do you know anybody? He said, oh, yeah, of course. I know John Proctor, who's the chief marshal here for Race Safe. And he says, you want me to send a message? And I said, yeah. And he sent a message off. Cliffo's here. He wants to come to Donington. And he says, yeah, no worries. And then I had contact, and John came back, and I sent, do you want any details, qualifications, you want my logbook or something? He says, no, if Dave Hawley says you're all right, you're all right. And we had a great time, and it was a wonderful experience, both from a personal thing, but also from comparing our systems, how we do things differently. It was very educational.
So I've got to ask, kind of comparing. Who does it better? What are the differences is probably the
what are the differences? You guys have a much more formal system, I think. Race Safe, as part of the Auto Cycle Union, organisation is and the branding and everything that goes with it. It gives it a sort of legitimacy and a public branding that we don't have with marshalling in Australia. We're all part of Motorcycling Australia, but it's not sold that way, and we don't have the kind of advertising you have with the videos and things that we saw at the track, for instance. So there's that, I guess. Your qualification system's different, where you have to do the one-day classroom in the morning, the practical stuff in the afternoon, which in very, very interestingly also includes first rider intervention assessment and use of the scoop litter and stuff. In our system, basically, you turn up. You can do it. Formally, you go online and you do an online thing, which is essentially this: how the system works, what the organisation is. There's ethics and all that sort of thing in there, and that gets you sort of the basic. And then you go along, and it's basically on the job.
So in some cases, it's quite literally a crash course. Depending on what,
absolutely, No, but we'll take somebody. Well, you can take somebody from.
You've just got that joke. You've just got that. You got that.
Well, I got it, but I didn't. Yeah,
it's all right, Dan. It's been a long day.
But so it's basically an on the job. There's a story of when we were at Morgan Park. We had a lot of rain before the event, and we were out there with brooms sweeping the pit lane and trying to get rid of the water. And this fellow comes up with a broom, and we're sweeping away this whole heap of us. And then we ended up at turn 6 to go and do it over there. And he comes along with me, and we're talking. And it turns out he's a bloke from the campground. He just got his broom out of his 4-wheel drive and came out. And so I got talking, and he lives local. And I says, are you interested in stuff? You know about marshalling? And he says, oh, no, what's the go? And I says, come with me. And I introduced him to the chief marshal, who was the chief marshal for the local racing club, and said, this is mate, let's take him trackside. We signed him, write him off on the indemnity. So we cover him with him. So we do this with some people, put them on the indemnity for the day, so they're covered. And he says, you want him, Cliffo? And I said, absolutely. So we took him out to turn 6. I actually did turn 6 and flagged, and we had a great time.
Oh, I love that.
And I had a few that have done that. And what's great, what comes from that is they become enthusiasts too.
Yeah.
And what then feeds back into the self-confidence thing that I had from having, lost my identity leaving the Defence Force is I do get people that come along and go, Cliffo, don't yell at me from across the thing,
Yeah.
I love recognition. It. Yeah.
I like that. No, I really like that. And to have been able to have got that identity back and,
rebuilt a new one is the thing.
And even if it is rebuilding a new one, people to, pick you out and to either embrace you, shout across the track, and then their marshalling experience comes off the back of what that very small intervention at the very beginning.
It's very, very, very satisfying.
That must sit really nicely with you. And
yeah, it does. It's been very confirmatory. It's not just my own impression of, it's not me making up my own story sort of thing. It's people that are validating it back to me, and that's wonderful. Yeah.
Some of them, you will be their story for how they started.
Yeah.
I hadn't thought that, but that's very nice.
Yeah. 12 months down the line, we'll be sitting with another Australian marshal.
Cliffo.
Yeah,
everybody knows Cliffo. Yeah. God, how'd you get him to shut up?
He can talk underwater.
It's actually, well, it's funny because just when you're talking about history, that I was marshalling when they first started the Yamaha Blue Crew Motorcycle Talent Cup in Australia, which is 11 and a half to 17-year-olds. Wow. It's one of those talent schemes. And I actually mentioned to the kids at one of the events that I said, you guys are history. You're Australian racing history. You're the first class, the first cohort of kids going through this system.
Yeah. There'll never be another bunch of them.
No, the bunch of the first ones.
Yeah.
No. Yeah.
They had the inaugural one. So just moving on to the Isle of Man, you mentioned you wanted to. Has it always been a bit of an attraction to come to?
Never. No, I know. You really read the bio, didn't you?
Yeah.
No, it's funny because my wife has said, is the Isle of Man a bucket list thing? And I said, not really. Probably because of cost and the distance and that sort of thing. But we have had Australians, probably forever going over and even riding in it, I would think. And last year in particular, there was a group of my people I particularly work with at City Motorsport Park with the St George club level stuff, road racing that went over last year. And there was a picture of them out the front of the Crack Hotel holding a beer. And I thought, that looked like fun. And my wife basically said, you should go. So here we are.
So have you come over on your own then? You've not come with them this time?
No, just on my own. There's one other, Penny Simeon is a lady marshal from Australia who's come over. There may be one or two others. I haven't mentioned it to me. I mean, most of them are on my Facebook or whatever, but nobody else has popped up. But there's just the one that I'm aware of at the moment.
Wow.
There'll probably be others.
Yeah.
It'd be a good trip, that. I mean, the Isle of Man,
Look,
especially around here, everybody's heard about it round our way.
Yeah, well, once I got right into sort of looking at it, I mean, I'm being very aware of it from the Closer to the Edge movie back in the day, that started off talking about the Isle of Man and became the showcase for Guy Martin, of course.
Very much.
I mean, that's awesome. But what I actually really liked once I got into, and I registered to come over, is you get into the website, is that each of the sectors and the sector marshal, the chief sector marshals, do a video. And you can go through, so Sector 1, it's hi, I'm Linda, or whatever, sorry, whoever it is. And they take you for a drive. And this is the thing. And Sector 1, Sector 2, and each one of them gives you their own sector. So I had a look at all of those and made a list of all the hotspots sort of thing. And what I've done deliberately is selected, put down for every single sector over the course of the 2 weeks. So I get to see the entire course.
That's a great idea.
And what is awesome is that a lot of the CSMs have come back and sent emails and saying, welcome, see it's your first time. Where would you like to work?
Wow.
That is a level of sophistication I've not seen elsewise. In Australia, when we have we don't have an event like that, I suppose, but for World Superbikes and the like, we don't know our allocations until we get there.
Yeah.
Donington, I knew before I arrived that I was going to be allocated to a certain person at a certain place. It's a different system.
Yeah. Again, it varies by circuit.
Yeah,
some circuits you find before. Some
I was pretty impressed that it was all done. It was all published the day before, which is terrific.
I think with over in the UK, it depends. For some of the events I've done, it depends how many marshals getting it. I mean, if you're trying to sign on and allocate 200-300 marshals in the morning, you'd have to start at 3 o'clock in the morning to be done.
I've been a chief marshal at the club level, and the thing of people not turning up and then having to redo it all, and that's one reason why they probably don't publish it, but they have it available printed out on the morning, or maybe the evening before if you're lucky, if there's a sign on the evening before.
Yeah, if it's a busy enough event, you can accommodate a few not turning up if you're a couple of man a post.
We'll not go to Angus.
Actually, that was something else I was very impressed with the UK system of having a branded organisation for the marshals, and I'm a big fan of that concept of identity. Of having a T-shirt with official written on the back costs nothing, but it gives people a sense of something that they could then come to value, and it's cheap as chips to build loyalty and retention.
I think that then goes back to your community. We mentioned community before, and it being a big part. That small cost to build such a powerful community as well.
Why I particularly mentioned it because the number of marshals you had at what is essentially your national event, and for Australian Superbikes, depending on, I mean, we are the tyranny of distance is a problem. That depending on how far you have to get people from and how strong the local club scene is to bring people across. It can be really, really slim pickings to be able to fill your flag posts.
Yeah.
I mean, I think you've given us a great chance to talk about the size of Australia just as a country.
Yeah, right.
I mean, we talk about the UK, the furthest I would have to drive to get to any racetrack in the UK is probably 5.5 hours maximum.
You've got what, 3-4 big circuits within an hour?
Yeah. And if you live in the centre of the country, I think probably the furthest then you've got to travel is 4 hours. Okay. But in the bio that when you sent that across, Phillip Island's a 10-hour drive.
Yeah, basically. Yeah, I can do it in one day if I leave in the morning. Quite often, or even driving or biking, there is a particular nice little town that we stop once we get into Victoria and have dinner and then have a bit of a kip and then finish off the last 2 hours. But you can do it in one day, but it is a full day.
And then Darwin's,
Darwin's a week.
A week.
yeah, that's a week.
I mean, it says something when your sat nav says, "Oh, it's like we get in the car here," and it says you're driving to London, and it's like 192 miles, and everybody goes, "Oh, such a long way." Yeah. I couldn't imagine what my mind would do if it was like, "Where you going? 1 week?" I'd be like, "Oh, that's a real
that's a week to get there for a 3-day event, and then you turn around and come back
again."
Yeah. Well, Sydney's 3 hours, and that's almost a local track. 300 kilometres.
So three hours from here, we're probably talking Silverstone. Would then be a local track from Manchester?
Yeah. You're
and that's your local track.
Yeah.
So then to say then that you followed round Aussie Superbikes everywhere.
Yeah. Well, Aussie Superbikes doesn't habitually go to Darwin. The events that relates to was a thing called the Triple Crown, which was the Superbikes from the Australian Superbike series. Supercars from the V8 series, and a drag strip event at night. So it's 3 crowns. They stopped doing bikes last year, I think, but 3 years before that, I rode up once on a motorbike via the Finke Desert Race, which is in the centre of Australia, and that's another story. I drove up once in my van, and then I flew the last time I went because I took my wife who hadn't been to Darwin before.
This is an ad, and there's 2 ways you can help support us. You can help us grow the show over on Patreon by joining Tom and Ryan from as little as £1 a week so we can get more amazing and cool guests onto the show. Or you can buy a hat, just like this one, over on our official website, alifeinorange.co.uk. The link is in the description. This was an ad, and this ad is over.
So going back, you said you started your marshalling journey sort of once you retired from the army. Let's go back a bit about that, your retirement, your work in the army, what you've done since then as well, outside of marshalling.
Yeah, sure. So the history was I spent 32 years, 4 months and 16 days in the Australian Defence Force in a number of roles, predominantly though as a registered nurse and then as a senior health officer, leaving in the rank of Lieutenant Colonel from the Australian Army, the Australian Defence Health Services. And long story short, again, it was part of a major reform program that I ended up getting severe, basically executive stress, and major depression, anxiety. And that was pretty much the end of any further promotion, being able to cope with stuff. And I was very unwell at that time. So 2015, medically discharged, and went a bit underground for a bit. I put the earring in and grew a beard and a ponytail. I went quite feral. And sort of, I'd been an army child and joined the Defence Force at 17, and now I was 50-something. So my identity, had been something around that all the time, short back and sides and the whole thing. So growing a beard out finally, and a ponytail and everything else was a sense of, okay, who am I now? And around 2017, I discovered sort of a little bit of it, but it was 2019 in particular when I started marshalling. I hooked up with the Australian Superbike series, going along to a couple of the events to actually registering or becoming a marshal. Starting off just being a trekkie as we do, working with other people and learning the ropes, and then you go on to a flag post and eventually, and then for many years after that, I was one of the very, very few marshals that travelled to every single round of the Australian Superbike series. Until fairly recently, when I've also added motocross, flat track and dirt track as a club clerk of course, and chief marshal at the club level. So the life is still there, but a lot more. Not so much superbikes anymore. I do work as often as I can at City Motorsport Park with the St George Club. It's a excellent club, sort of state level, inter-club level, and they're wonderful. But I find that some of the superbike series, they're a bit further away, so I can actually save a bit of money by just travelling around doing dirt stuff locally or within New South Wales, as opposed to going all the way up to Queensland or over to South Australia, or as you mentioned before, Darwin.
So you would find that as a way of it's a strange way of thinking of it, but it's a way of relaxing. So although it's almost quite an intense hobby for some people in some instances.
Yeah, I think, I was talking to some of the people here at Donington around the, once you get the experience sort of thing that you get to in the first place, and it's like, oh, there's a crash and it's all, But with experience, etc., now it's, okay, it's another crash and you wait the moment and you go out. And, you've had, I think most of us that have been marshalling for a while, you get that experience of people, they're on the radio, that's all, he's hurt. No. Just wait a minute.
Let the dust settle.
He's counting his feet. Just wait a minute. Just wait till he gets up. It hasn't happened of late, but, events have been red flagged because people are panicking on the radio. Now with cameras on the tracks, there's actually one of the bigger innovations that I think has assisted is that now the clerk of course and the race director can now look at the cameras and go, no, it's all right.
Yeah.
We don't really need to red flag that just yet.
I could talk about cameras and how much it helps for a long time, but one thing I'd really love to talk about is you mentioned your struggles with mental health coming out of your working life and then going into a different community. How you touched on it in the beginning part of the podcast. How has the marshalling community at home helped you rebuild your confidence and your identity?
It's been very accepting. I found that I can talk. Everybody knows that I had been, particularly earlier on. So for the first couple of years, I did my job individually, and he's an excellent trackie or an excellent flaggy in particular. Because I was on with the Superbikes, it's hard to get the marshals sometimes. So quite often we end up running a flag post on our own, and I'm perfectly happy with it. And the feedback has been excellent. Cliffo's great, or give Cliffo somebody to teach. And then as it got sort of more recent, I started accepting that I might have the confidence in myself to start applying for the clerk of course training. So I'm a clerk of course for motocross now at the club level, what we call level 2. I'm doing the clerk of course training for road racing with St George at Sydney Motorsport Park at level 2, again, club level. But that's where it starts. And so far I've coped very well with that. Occasionally, once in a while, something goes wrong and my response is a little bit trigger happy. That's what it is. Most of the time, though, I'm really very proud that I've gone from, almost a near-death experience to, being
rebuilt yourself,
being like anybody else, essentially, from a mental health stability perspective.
And how important is it because we've just had Mental Health Awareness Week. Our editor Sam, he put out a great blog about mental health and
what the
community's done. How hard or how easy or what was it like to talk about your mental health when you first come into a community where people didn't really know you?
Well, I guess because of my history as a registered nurse, I'm sort of pretty open about health things. And in fact, even in defence, where I think it's probably better than it was, but it was, it was a career ender back then. I mean, we're talking 2015, so it's 10 years at least. It's possibly still a problem. I don't know. I'm not in on the inside. But I immediately just said, I'm not well, went around, saw my doctor, who I employ at my own in my own hospital, the one I run, and said, mate, I'm no good. Refer me to the Veterans Counselling Service. He said, do you want me to give him a ring? And I said, no, I'll give him a ring. And it was my offsider at the Veterans Counselling Service. And, they looked after me in that instance. But then I went off duty for 6 weeks, went back home to Canberra because I was actually working away from home at that time. Running the Northern Queensland Area Health Service for Defence while my family was still back in Canberra. So I went home for 6 weeks, and then my bosses said, look, we don't want to rescind you back to that environment. You've only got 6 months to go in that job. Come home. Wow. So I did that and basically went back to what I'd been doing before I went to Queensland.
Yeah.
I wasn't going to go anywhere. I could have spent the rest of my time up until retirement age doing that. But once I recognised, that was it, and I was still struggling with stuff. It's like, no, I'm what we call pulling the pin, and got the help all the way through. I was, on rehab and all that sort of thing. But this is going nowhere. It's time to go.
So no, I've come across.
But having said that, we had a conference, an annual health conference in defence, which I'd presented over the years, various things in my genre as a trauma nurse and what have you. And I actually did one on stress and major depression. And said, I'm here. I'm crazy. Let's look after people. So I'm perfectly happy with talking about it. And when I came into marshalling, the friends that I sort of gathered immediately, I said, I've got these, and they could see it. I mean, but they've also commented that I do much better now than I did back then.
So they can see the progress.
Oh, absolutely, which is great, and it's encouraging for other people to say there is a way with the right help and the right self-care, and having people that understand and don't reject you because you do have things like a hair trigger, or panic reactions or whatever it is, that you can come through it and actually have quite a worthwhile and happy life after it.
So now I've come across quite a few people through marshalling that again have had similar issues, mental health issues, and they have said that being part of that community that we've mentioned,
so of the community
has helped massively.
What we call the Orange Army in Australia, because we all wear orange, and just but I mean, a lot of them are the same age too, which is another whole story about the issue of having younger marshals coming through. But most of us are crazy, aren't we?
Well,
I think
to some extent.
If you run a slide rule over any of us, we're all just a little bit crazy.
I think you've got to be to stand next to a track or a rally track or whatever and go,
I love it.
I'm going to wait for a car and or bike to just throw themselves at me. Or in your case, a bike and a rider to just go in different directions.
Yeah, one of the very first experiences that happening was at, I don't know if it was World Supers or MotoGP at Phillip Island. I was at turn 12 and was it Alex Vinales? I think threw his bike at me. Anyway, it's like, that's how it works.
Alex, if you're listening, it's a very rude thing to do.
There's plenty of stories about people who had bikes and things, but that's another story. Yeah.
That's the appeal of cars more to me than bikes. Is that when one car comes off, you just watch where the car goes.
Right.
When one bike comes off, you've then got the bike and the rider. And
you need to do more history about cars, mate. Because sometimes they do not go to the same place.
Keep an eye on my Facebook, Cliffo's Racing Support Services, because there's video
of shameless plug
of the 4-bike pile-up at my corner on Saturday.
Okay,
I've only just got a video of it. It was a mess, but we cleared it in good time.
That's it, and again, that's what I like about it. When things go wrong, we have a laugh and a joke, and it's all fun on that side of the barrier. But then, as soon as we step across that line, it's right. Let's just get on with the job at hand. And people that I've spoken to, when they've mentioned about mental health and their struggles, it's when they cross that ticket gate almost into the circuit, those struggles almost melt away, and it's just we're here to have fun, and that's the hobby. Yeah.
Well, part of this that does appeal from the marshal perspective is maybe it's a little bit anally retentive, but I'm a bit militaristic. I like process and having the thing. So when I was, for instance, a zone chief, a deputy zone chief over in Coda this year, it's like, okay, who's got the front? Who's got the back? Let's work this out before you get there. And we got out there, got the bike and got it back, and it's like,
everyone knows what they're doing.
Yeah,
it just works like a well-oiled machine.
You have the chat, you get your team together, you work out how you do it, and you praise them and debrief afterwards. And even if it was quite funny because we had 3 track teams, it was sort of 1, 2, and 3, and everybody kept crashing at 2, and so one's standing there watching them. But what I was doing is, okay, what did you think about that? See how they did that? What could we have done different? And it's just always a discussion: who takes the fire extinguisher? Do we take a fire extinguisher?
Do we bring it back?
Well, what you have is you have somebody who may take a fire extinguisher because you don't want everybody that, 2 people going, oh, he's got, No. So it's that kind of thing which helps a great deal, which from a standing, when I was still, let's say unstable, but that's not the right word, being able to break things down into a process, even at home, in fact, having a timetable and a process and things was greatly helpful until I sort of established stuff. Even things like meals at regular times and things like that, and just knowing what my environment was going to be and being able to deal with that, and then I've been able to expand that environment and deal with a little bit more uncertainty once I know that I can do it, I can deal with it, that I can survive it. I don't panic it as nearly as much, or I have a reaction that way.
I like that. And you've mentioned there that your military background has allowed you to take some of the processes and apply them to martial. But let's just talk more about that military life. You spent such a long time in there, 32 years.
Well, it's quite unusual because people go, oh, what were you? And I was in the Navy. I started off at 17 in the Navy as a communicator, radio operator, and it was during the time of the Soviet Union. And I was quite interested in shortwave radio and that sort of thing at the time. In fact, I'd been a Navy cadet, which is like the Sea Scouts kind of organisation from 14 through to 17, and then went to the Navy as soon as I was immediately old enough to go as an adult recruit. My first posting was to an aircraft carrier, which is pretty cool.
Quite impressive,
cool.
And being a communicator meant I could also go up onto the signal deck, which was one of the highest places you can go on the island. And so it's even above where the admiral sits. And I could watch flight operations when I'm not on duty. So I'm watching things being thrown off, with a catapult at the front and things being caught by wires at the back, which is pretty cool. And then I was on another ship and then a couple of land postings, but my fiance back then was training as a nurse, and I got very interested in the nursing by default with looking at her journals and what she was studying at the time. And I really like the combination of science and people. I like to think I'm a people person, and I love science. And being able to put the two together and be able to do some really complex work, particularly as a trauma nurse and as an aeromedical nurse in the military as well. And I did midwifery even to add to that. Is taking that deep science, that deep skill set, but putting it to people. They're fundamental people in crisis. And maybe it's a bit like going out and picking up a rider, I have a saying which has been once misunderstood of, their bad day is my good day. It's a day where I get to use all my skill sets, etc., to sort your bad day out. I was once accused of being in it for the blood sport. I'm only there to watch the crashing. But that was a car group.
That was a car group.
I think bikes get it, but it comes back to I do like doing the best job that I can. Because it does fit into my mental model of how I do business anyway. But to get, an important job done, get that track clear, get that racing going again.
So just want to bring it back to the more interpersonal skills, the people skills, really, because you've mentioned so many incredible people that I probably couldn't go back in my memory and name them all that you've done in such a great way. Getting to know that community of people, whether it's the riders, it's other marshals, it's chief marshals, it's sector chiefs, just how important is that community just generally?
Well, absolutely. I mean, that's the very basis for what I've just spoken about in terms of mental health and personal support is having a friendship group sort of already self-established around that common theme of the marshalling. And they've been extremely accepting, and I have found that the quite riders, teams, other marshals that we meet time and time again as we travel around do become your extended friendship group. And, you can go away for a bit. It's like, work colleagues or whatever. You go away for a bit, you come back and immediately see them in the conversation that you had 2 months ago and the like. And we all do. And marshalling is actually more my hobby rather than the racing. It is, again, it's my lifestyle is the marshalling bit. It just happens to be related to motorcycle racing. And what is it of that marshalling bit? It's the people, of course. The skills of waving a flag or doing a pickup are important, and of course something is critical to the role and being safe and doing the job appropriately so that racing is conducted in a safe and efficient way. But it's the people. It really is the people that keep you coming back. And when that, or if that were to become unbalanced or there be issues around that, that's when I think we may have trouble. Certainly, workplaces, you've seen, toxic workplaces, toxic leaders, toxic workers, whatever it is, that could be the death knell of a business. And at the moment, I've got a whole selection of different events to go to, and they're all wonderful people that I enjoy going to see when I go to the events, to go and catch up with so-and-so and the like at each of these events. A big part of it is going to do the social thing in the campground, and then as we go out to do to get the marshal's briefing, and then we deploy out, and then we come back and where were you today and what did you do? And we have our stories around the campfire. It's a wonderful thing. It's the biggest part of the marshalling community, and it's the biggest benefit from a mental health perspective. People, you should really try it.
I think that is probably a really powerful and a really great way of finishing it. Is the hobby isn't motorsport. The hobby is marshalling.
It's marshalling, absolutely.
And the people. And Cliffo, honestly, I could sit here for the rest of the night and the rest of the day and the rest of the week speaking to you because you've got some incredible stories. Yeah. And I hope at some point in the future, I'm one of those people that we get to catch up again at some point. It would be an absolute pleasure.
Look, it's been a great honour for you to invite me along to your second podcast.
Yeah.
I very much appreciate that, and best of wishes for you. You do have an extremely interesting online experience with the Life in Orange.
Thank you very much.
We're looking forward to it perhaps next time.
Well, enjoy the Isle of Man TT.
Yes,
I hope you have a great time and safe travels back home as well, back to Australia. Thank you, Cliffo.
Thank you very much.
What a guy Cliffo was, and a pleasure to have him on the podcast. I feel like I could have talked to him for the rest of my life.
Oh, definitely. He just had so much to say.
I mean, I think his story about following the Australian Superbikes around and going to all the different venues kind of highlights how big Australia is as a country.
Oh, we get people over here that follow, say, touring cars, and that sounds like a lot to us. And then you realise the distance he's travelled to follow the Superbikes.
Yeah.
It's incomprehensible.
He probably does more travelling in one trip to Darwin than somebody who does follow the touring cars round does in their entire season.
Yeah.
But, you know, what a guy. And, you know, really, I loved having him on, and he touched massively on the community side. And
yeah. And the mental health side as well is so important. I know to a lot of marshals.
Yeah.
It's helped them through sometimes.
Massively. But that is all we've got time for. So thank you very much for watching or listening, depending on where you've been consuming this podcast. And don't forget, if you'd like to be a guest, fill out the link in the description below. And who knows, you could be sat in the other seat.
And don't forget to subscribe to our Patreon, follow us on your socials, and wherever you get our podcasts.